It started as an attempt to make a favorable documentary on illegal immigrants, talking about how it was going to help these people and would benefit us here in the United States. But then the director, who was a Democrat, started actually investigating, following the story, and realized it's just bad for everyone. Now, I've often talked about this. You see, when we can't accurately place individuals, they end up in poverty. The people who come here illegally are not benefiting from this, and neither are we. Legal immigration is the key. I've seen it firsthand in foreign countries. We need to make sure that if someone comes in, we can say, we know a really, really great place where you will strive and we can accommodate you. Otherwise, you end up with these people wandering through the desert. People will get sick. They'll die. It's horrifying. So we need to maintain our security. But let's read this story and learn about how a Democratic director reverses position on illegal immigration after investigating for documentary. The caller says, a director set out to make a documentary favoring illegal immigration and migrant caravans. But after investigating, Namrata Singh Gujral realized that illegal immigration actually harmed everyone involved. The director told the Daily Caller News Foundation. Gujral, a registered Democrat, said the stories of a homeless veteran, an illegal immigrant, a dead 6-year-old girl, and the mother of a law enforcement officer killed by an illegal alien, all featured in her film America's Forgotten, are representative of those impacted by illegal immigration, Gujral told the DCNF. In her investigation into the stories, she discovered the truth behind immigration fraud. She said, quote, I set out to make a film that was going to be very pro-illegal immigration, pro-caravans, pro-migrants. That's where I started. The film ended up completely different, and I think it was because I stuck with the investigation. I was at a crossroads. Do I tell the truth and go ahead and make the film, or do I walk away from the film because it doesn't agree with me or my industry? Gujral told the DCNF. I decided to stay truthful to my craft of filmmaking and tell the story as I saw it without bias or preconceived notions. I'm going to pause right here and tell you, most of the people I meet who walk away from the Democrats, become Trump supporters, say it's because they investigated for themselves. When you break out of the mainstream media echo chamber, you realize the world is very, very different. And they've been lying to you. This individual is not necessarily talking about voting for Trump. Same story. The media's been lying about immigration. They claim everything's great. It's fine. They want you for some reason to believe it's a good thing for everybody, but it's not. And the scariest thing to me is when we see these stories of, people trying to come to this country illegally and they lose their lives in the desert. I will tell you this. There are people who talk about the threats to our security. Look, I understand these arguments, but let me tell you, the real threat is to the security of these immigrants, to their lives. So we had the one story where a guy was coming with his daughter and they were found, face down in a ditch. People who have to wander through 90 miles of desert with no supplies, no food, no ability to make it through this vast swaths of land. They don't. They wander around. They can become delirious. They can become sick. We must protect these people. And we do it very simply. We put up a border. We do not incentivize people to cross here and wander through the desert. And we set them up and say, you'll have to wait so we can figure out the best way to make sure you are being helped. Because let me tell you, where would an illegal immigrant be better off? Waiting in Mexico near the border, maybe even homeless, or wandering through 90 square miles of desert? I think it's obvious. We want them to stay in safe locations until we have an opportunity to process their requests. It's that simple. It's all about keeping everybody safe and making sure we're helping people. Gujral said the turning point for her was when she went to India to search for the grandfather of a girl named Gurpreet Kaur, who died in the Arizona desert while trying to illegally immigrate to the United States. This is what I was saying. Gujral went to the same home and sat in the same marble-floored room where a CNN reporter previously conducted an interview with Gurpreet's grandfather. She saw no signs of violence or poverty or persecution in the neighborhood. Gurpreet's father lived in New York while his asylum case was pending, according to CNN. His lawyer said he was from a religious minority and he was fleeing persecution. And a lawyer for her mother said she was also seeking asylum, CNN reported. Gujral told the DCNF that CNN did not ask about poverty, persecution, or violence in the neighborhood because none of them exist here. Why would a reporter whose job it is to report the truth go there and not even question it? The CNN report did not provide details regarding the claim that Gurpreet's father faced religious persecution. There's something more. There's something more here than meets the eye and what I'm reading in the mainstream media. And I just need to follow up with the story more and find the truth for myself. It reminds me of when I went to Sweden. I had a bunch of lefties saying, don't go. Don't cover what's going on in Sweden. I said, why? They said, it's fake. And I was like, okay, then I'll go there and say it's fake. No, don't go there. If you said it's fake, then what does it matter? And sure enough, I went to Sweden and found, for the most part, a lot of the more extreme rhetoric was fake. There were some problems. It wasn't really much of what, it wasn't like extremists, a lot of people were saying it was. Why would journalists not want me to report? Take a look at this story. CNN didn't report. And so this individual, Gujral, went there, found out CNN was lying. How about that? Gujral said that when Rep. Rashida Tlaib, a Michigan Democrat, blamed the Trump administration for separating families at the border, she felt compassion for them. Now she wonders why that mother who brought her child through this harrowing experience, who really didn't need to leave where she was because there was no poverty, persecution, or violence, should not be held accountable for putting her child through this. An illegal immigrant from Mexico, Maria Garcia, came to the U.S. to study, she said in the film. Maria said that she and other women and children were raped and abused by cartel members acting as coyotes, people who smuggle immigrants across the border. Maria said the cartel promoted a warped version of America where everyone was successful and rich. She said the cartels sold her multiple times until a canine at the border was alerted to the car. Border Patrol agents found her and another woman in the trunk, she said in the film. Once she got to the U.S., she said she worked a job for $1.50 an hour, though it would pay an American worker just over $6. She said she sent her wages back to her family. On either side of the fence, illegal immigration is a bad idea, period, Gujral told the DCNF. She said no one wins except for the coyotes, the corporations, and maybe the politicians. Gujral said the Americans need to do more to educate themselves on the issues. Americans need facts, she told the DCNF. She added that Making America's Forgotten, the documentary, helped her decide who to vote for in the upcoming presidential election. A few months ago, I would have absolutely voted for Biden. I am actually going to vote for Trump, which I never thought I would be saying. And it's because of what I found in the movie. Gujral faced criticism from her family, friends, and the film industry for the documentary, she told the DCNF. I put my career on the line for this picture, and that's okay. She said the film crew voluntarily withheld any credits due to possible political backlash. I want to encourage other filmmakers to put out content that is more truthful to America, and you're not going to get it from Hollywood, and I can tell you that, Gujral told the DCNF. If you don't support it, you're not going to see it. They said she will produce a new series called America First as a result of America's Forgotten, she told the DCNF. This is really fascinating stuff, but I'm not surprised. Some people tried to claim that they tried running this fake narrative. Lefty Vice reporter goes to Sweden and gets red-pilled, which is just not true. When I worked for Vice, I was on the ground in Morocco and Ukraine and Venezuela. I knew what was going on in the world. I covered, Occupy Wall Street. I saw what was happening. But a lot of people wanted to play that narrative. And so they wanted to play it up like I went there and I was like, I was so shocked. And no, I actually said a lot of what the right was putting out there was incorrect. That there was widespread chaos and terror and stuff like that. There's crime. But a lot of the crime in Sweden was due to refugees from 20 years ago having kids. It's a very, very complicated issue. But I'll tell you what I learned from that is that unchecked and unfettered immigration hurts everyone, even the migrants. And if we really want to make sure we're helping these people, then what we need to do is make sure they come here, they sign up, they go through the process. Otherwise, they're going to be wandering through a desert. It's like I said, I don't think anybody wants that, right? Now, of course, you have more extreme rhetoric coming from the far right about chaos and violence, and you need to calm down, okay? Because I didn't find a whole lot of that up in Sweden. I did find gang violence, and that had a lot to do with refugees from 20 years ago. I shouldn't even say refugee. I'm sorry, that's an incorrect term. It had to do with the children of refugees who felt like they weren't a part of Sweden, even though they were born there or had spent most of their lives there. And that's the issue of integration. That shows exactly why we need to make sure that when people come to our country or any country, we can say, here's the best place for you. What was happening was that people were forming enclaves. They would all move to the same place and then not interact with the rest of Sweden and have limited access to resources. Their kids would be born and be fluent in their home language and not the language, not Swedish, or they would be fluent in Swedish, but they would sound like they had an accent, and they would be called immigrants. And then they couldn't find jobs. And Sweden's particularly racist, if you ask me, for that reason. And so it just created serious problems for everybody involved. Now, the bigger picture here is, will regular people see this? And will Democrats see this and change their vote? Maybe. I'm willing to bet that the rise of the internet is changing votes from Democrat to Republican as we speak. And it has been over the past several years. We're about 2 weeks out. I guess we'll see how it affects the election. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up tomorrow at 10 a.m. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all next time.